It seems that against all odds, bagger racing is here to stay. If your algorithm is anything like mine, I can't open any social media app without being inundated with video compilations of 800-pound baggers scraping hard saddlebags around a racetrack. I think many fans of pure motorcycle racing thought bagger racing would be a short-lived novelty. That's kind of what I thought. But in the wake of the newly announced MotoGP Bagger World Cup, it seems that is far from the case. Thanks, Liberty Media. So, that begs the question, is bagger racing really a worthwhile racing endeavor? Or is it just a spectacle, more along the lines of something like Monster Truck Rally? A place where genetically disadvantaged motorcycles can compete with one another on a level playing field because they can't hang anywhere else. Sounds kind of familiar, right? Bagger racing is growing, so now what? Let's get into it. Okay, so to understand the madness of bagger racing, we have to rewind the clock to pre-2020. Back then, the idea of racing a bagger was kind of just a meme. A couple of guys would go viral for ripping a bagger around a racetrack, and the comment section would be like, haha, imagine a whole track with these. And then someone would respond, dude, that would be hilarious. And I guess Moto America had their finger on the pulse because they decided to do a one-off exhibition race called King of the Baggers. It was supposed to be a fun time filler race, like having a clown ride a unicycle in between rodeo events. But it actually blew up. People went nuts and clips went viral. Suddenly, Harley and Indian riders felt seen. The American V-twin crowd that was once divided were now united under one cause, because these guys finally saw racing on real bikes. So, Moto America decided to make it a full-on championship series. Harley and Indian both stepped in with factory-level support. Think about how crazy that is. These are two companies with gigantic budgets for factory-level race bikes that are baggers. Teams formed, budgets were secured, and today, King of the Baggers is a whole spec series with factory-backed teams, superbike level engineering, and some of the most unique racing North America has ever produced. It got so big, it spawned a rival league. The Bagger Racing League is like an independent circuit of bagger racing. It's less corporate, with more grassroots ragtag teams, with support and sponsorship help from aftermarket parts companies. The Bagger Racing League has more diverse racing events, including stunt riders, different types of V-twin racing categories like Hooligan GP or Big Twin GP, alongside the Bagger GP class that uses bikes similar to that in the King of the Baggers. So before we get too much further, it's worth mentioning that these are not your grandpa's baggers. It's like how there are Toyota Camrys in NASCAR, when the only thing they share with the production cars is a vague semblance of bodywork. In the sense of a bagger racing, a bagger must have a big touring fairing, saddlebags, and adhere to certain build or budget limitations. They are based on either a Harley-Davidson Road Glide or an Indian Challenger. But pretty much everything else is fair game to be deleted or modified. Teams start with an 850-pound touring barge and then turn them into 200 horsepower racing machines with a minimum weight of 620 pounds. Much of the bodywork, including the fairing and saddlebags, are made from carbon fiber. They have ultra high spec Öhlins forks, brake setups that cost like 15 grand, modified rear sets for increased lean angles, and a ton of adjustments to affect the rider ergonomics and aerodynamics. They're also massively changed from a geometry perspective. Bagger racing bikes have seat heights of like 38 inches. But it raises a bit of a philosophical question. Is it really a bagger if you can't even put Deb on the back or actually store anything in the saddlebags? Because at some point, we need to acknowledge that trying to turn a bagger into a superbike is a bit of a silly endeavor. And as a side note, I often thought that a really great marketing exercise for these bagger bikes is if one of them got on the podium and then they popped open the saddlebags, opened up a beer, and enjoyed their celebrations. Or maybe some Prosecco. Come on, somebody do that idea for me. But if people want their slop, somebody's got to give it to them with bagger racing. Tens of millions of people watch NASCAR after all, and bagger racing offers a similar appeal. So why do engineers enjoy working on these projects? And why do the mechanical limitations of a bizarre bagger spec series create such an appeal in audiences? Bagger racing is just one giant engineering challenge. I'm not sure how many people have looked at a 900-pound touring bike and said, let's see if we can build this to get to the point that in the right hands, it can pass a middle-aged man on a Panigale. It's just mechanically wrong, it's spiritually wrong, it's morally wrong, and that's why people like it. We live in godless times. It's like trying to win the Kentucky Derby by riding a rhinoceros. The raw audacity is hard to look away from. The technical challenges are seemingly insurmountable. A super high center of gravity, tons of rotating mass, a giant engine stuck in the middle, huge amounts of crank inertia, tons of heat, and the aerodynamics of a Dell desktop PC from 2003. So, teams have to get really creative, pulling out all the stops to make more power and improve handling. They're able to shave 300 pounds from the bikes. They dramatically alter the geometry, and they do their best to mitigate chassis flex, of which there is a ton. It's impressive for sure, and it creates a primal response in our monkey brains to watch a technically inappropriate machine attempting to do something it's not supposed to do. It reminds me of those clips of Gold Wings riding off-road. You don't want to look, but you also can't look away. And for the fans, bagger races just seem to hit different. American audiences are primed to get their jollies from big, loud, chaotic racing events. Watching a bagger go through a corner elicits both awe and dismay. The chassis moves around like a wet noodle. The bags want to scrape during corners like they're trying to excavate the Earth's mantle. And comparatively, MotoGP racing has tons of finesse, and with the top racers in the world operating the best machines for the job, achieving lap times that are within 1/10 of a second of one another. It requires a discerning audience to make sense of the competition. By comparison, bagger racing is raw, chaotic, and in your face. And that sounds like the most American thing ever, right? There's a reason bagger racing clips offer the same virality as late night Waffle House fights. It's crass, it's intense, and it's distinctly American. Plus, Harley-Davidson sells a ton of motorcycles, so when a Harley rider sees a road glide racing at COTA, they go, oh my god, that's so me! But that's really no different from the sport bike squid who watches MotoGP and thinks that he could totally hang with Fabio Quartararo's qualifying lap if they just got a little more serious about track days. Harley riders are cringe, but they're not uniquely cringe. And of course, the Harley versus Indian tribalism is part of the secret sauce of bagger racing. We love a good rivalry, a two-party system, making enemies of our own neighbors because they support a different team. It's fun. Aren't we all having fun? This is good, right? Time is running out to win my Honda Hornet 750 on yammynoob.co. We're sweetening the deal for you guys as this sweepstakes comes to a close. We're doing all new Discord only giveaways. So every other week, I'm gonna be picking a lucky person on Discord, giving them a helmet, tires, jackets, gloves, anything that I can think of that would be kind of cool for them on their motorcycle ride. And of course, when you become a member on yammynoob.co, you'll get entered to win this Honda Hornet 750. December 26th is the last chance you have to get entered to win. If none of that sounds good to you, you can always pick up a hat, a t-shirt, a hoodie. Every dollar you spend, it will be an entry to win. We got a bunch of cool new designs on there, so check out my website, yammynoob.co. Now let's get back to the show. So where's the line between spectacle and sport? And what side of the aisle does bagger racing find itself? Let's look to some other famed American institutions for answers. Monster truck rallies attract huge crowds. They feature big, loud, purpose-built machines, rife with chaos and carnage. It sounds a lot like bagger racing, doesn't it? Well, monster truck rallies are a spectacle. Tractor pull, spectacle. Demolition derby, spectacle. NASCAR is rooted in spectacle. It has wild crowds, insane crashes, but it's definitely solidified itself as a sport with impressive engineering, world-class athletes, and serious competition, even if you don't agree with the whole thing. So, where does bagger racing fall? I mean, there are arguments to be made that it is a sport. There are official rules, sanctioned championships, factory teams, and high-level engineering. Not to mention very serious pro-level riders like Kyle Wyman, Corey West, and James Rispoli, who have not only had success in King of the Baggers, but could put basically all motorcyclists to shame if they were to race on any track. I actually happened to be on track with Troy Herfoss one time, who passed me on the outside on a race bagger like I was standing still. It was really impressive stuff, I'm not gonna lie. But there are also arguments that bagger racing is in many ways more of a spectacle. The bikes make no sense. The core of the event revolves around the ridiculous nature of a bagger doing things it was never intended to do, which kind of makes it feel a little less serious. It also exists largely as a marketing experiment. The manufacturers and aftermarket brands know how many eyes it attracts during the live events or on social media after the fact. But it's worth mentioning that many automotive racing events do have similar grassroots style origins. NASCAR stems from moonshiners hot rodding their cars to avoid police. Supercross is huge, and originally people were racing dirt bikes at the county fair, and even the early days of Grand Prix racing look nothing like what we see on the world stage today. Bagger racing is following a kind of similar pattern. It's rooted in a meme, it became a spectacle for fans, and is now becoming a legitimate discipline. It might not be the future of premier motorcycle racing as a whole, but I think it's fair to say it's a legitimate thing enough to stand on its own at this point. America already has kind of a bad reputation as far as the global motorcycle community goes. We're seen as the land of big chrome cruisers or undereducated squids who finance a liter bike at 20 years old without any legitimate skill or training. No American riders currently compete in MotoGP. We don't produce much in the way of cutting-edge machines, and our best-selling bikes cost more than many compact cars. So, when the world sees us creating an entire racing league just to accommodate our gigantic touring bikes, it just looks a little goofy. Meanwhile, in Europe and Asia, they're simultaneously producing and selling smaller, affordable machines for commuters and world-class race bikes for experienced riders and premier racers alike. And we're out here like, well, you know what? We can't compete at that level, so we'll just start our own thing instead. To be honest, it kind of reflects a broader trend of Americans in sport, right? Like, we don't compete on the world stage, so we just come up with our own stuff. The kicker is, no matter how silly it is, bagger racing kind of is the most authentic representation of American motorcycling ever put to a racetrack. These bikes are big, heavy, overbuilt, expensive, silly, and unapologetically American. That's kind of our whole riding identity, right? No matter how unfortunate that may be. Japan pioneered inline-4 race bikes, Italy has V4s, America has baggers. Right, so the elephant in the room, which is actually not the 900-pound bikes we're talking about, the actual catalyst for this story is MotoGP's Harley-Davidson Bagger World Cup, which is arguably the funniest name ever uttered by a racing organization. Why does the organization responsible for the best motorcycle racing in the world want anything to do with bagger racing? I think MotoGP wants to attract more American fans more than anything. I mean, that's what new parent company Liberty Media has explicitly said. If we don't have homegrown athletes to root for in GP, because it's going to take a long time to get that talent down the pipeline, I guess the next best thing is to have a whole separate series specifically made for American motorcycles and American riders. I guess that's the best thing, right? It's like if the US Olympic team was like, well, look, we're not going to compete in track and field, so you can start an Olympic hot dog eating contest for us instead. King of the Baggers and Bagger Racing Leagues has shown that people are eating this stuff up. Wouldn't it be foolish for MotoGP to not capitalize on this somehow? The Harley Baggers World Cup is more of an exhibition than true championships, with short races, small grids, limited teams focused on entertainment value more than anything else. It's not necessarily about sporting merit, but marketing. It raises some questions about how European fans will react, and in fact, we've already seen that there's been some backlash from diehard enthusiasts sharing the same sentiment that I've expressed thus far. But there has to also be a surprising amount of people open to the idea, essentially saying, racing anything is fun. If it brings more people into the world of motorcycle racing, it is a net positive, which I can't really disagree with, but I'm sure we'll have a better understanding of its impact come 2026. Another side note I wanted to make is that bagger racing, much like Moto E, is meant to be a spectacle or something strange. But where Moto E failed was it was too specialized and too strange and too sport-oriented. Bagger racing at least is a spectacle, and it's fun and it's cool to watch, and at least those engines make a big sound. At the end of the day, bagger racing is silly and it's ridiculous, but it's also exciting and novel, and I'm glad to see something interesting happening in motorcycling that gets people more interested in riding. It's the most American motorcycle racing that has ever been done, and it represents American automotive culture aptly, for better or for worse. Americans don't currently race in MotoGP. We don't really build sport bikes. We might not innovate at the same level as Japanese or European companies, and we certainly cater to a much smaller and specialized riding demographic. But we know how to put on a show, that's for damn sure. Think about the cultural exports of America, movies, reality TV shows, and all of our music as well. And as long as people love watching a big V-twin hurl itself through apexes that they honestly have no business being within 100 feet of, it's probably not going anywhere. So I guess all I have to say is enjoy the show. Thanks so much for making it to the end of today's video. I appreciate it. What do you guys think of bagger racing? Is it the most exciting racing series going on currently? Or is it kind of an embarrassing cop-out? I'd love to hear what you think down below, so let me know. Bagger racing is often a very controversial and engagement bait content, so that's why we've made it. Thanks again for watching today's video. I'll see you on the next one.